Was there a moment, and this is a sort of on biggest moments for you personally, that changed your perspective or gave you a little bit of anger or desire to say, I want to be part of that? Because when I look back and I think about, I got called in for the Copa America, and as I was arriving, I had just heard that the U.S. had beat. I had arrived in Chicago to fly to obviously to Venezuela, and I had just heard that this U.S. team had won the Gold Cup, and I was watching it on a screen at the hotel bar, and it's Benny Philhaber running to the corner and someone pulling his shirt. It's that iconic shot of Benny and the crowd just basically being full Mexico, and just this moment of running it late. And I remember feeling like I'm about to get on a plane with a lot of these guys who have now experienced something different than me. And it angered me. Like, I was so excited because Benny was one of my good friends, and I was excited for the team. And it's a huge moment going into another tournament or just for our own credibility as a national team. But deep down inside, I was like on fire. And I went down and ended up, Johnny Bornstein ended up starting 2 of the 3 games at Copa America. And I was just like, I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to feel like I need to control what I can control, but I want to make sure that I'm like locking myself at least in contention for this national team, and then making a tough decision for Bob. And that Gold Cup 2007 was the one that did it for me, where like I thought about it for days and days and days of just being like, I don't want to miss out on that again. Obviously, in the end, I end up missing out on going to the World Cup in 2010, but it was a real motivator for me to say, like, you're going to have to improve. You're going to have to like kind of grasp this a little bit tighter and do a little bit more. If you want to be able to be in person to experience special moments with the national team, which ultimately got me to the Confederations Cup and another Gold Cup and things like that. And that was a real turning point for me of being like, oh, I wasn't invited to the party, and I want to be invited to the party next time. Either of you have a moment or something you saw on TV, because everybody knows you watch club games or you watch national team games in person, it feels different for both of you. I know it does, right? If you're sitting in person, you watch the national team play versus watching your old club team play, there's a little bit of something going on that's harder to digest, harder to interpret, harder to know, like positive, negative, like tears of joy, kind of mixed emotions.
I'll go first, Charlie. I got a call from Bob Bradley a couple months before that summer of 2007, where we were going to have back-to-back tournaments, where we played in the Gold Cup and then immediately went down to Copa America. And that was going to take me away from my club team and my family for 8 or 9 weeks. That's a big ask. But what are you going to say no to the national team coach when he's going to ask you to be, at that point, a pivotal member of his starting squad and to be part of it? I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm all the way in, Bob. No problem. And when I got home, this was maybe 2 weeks before my first daughter was born. So my first daughter's born, and obviously you have your own emotions, and I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but you have your own dad issues of like maybe what your dad didn't do when you were a kid, and you want to fill that void. So I was a little bit maybe over the top and like wanting to be there and be the guy for my daughter, because I didn't get as much of that when I was younger. And so I had that kind of factoring in. And now you add into the fact that my wife she doesn't want to be left alone with the baby by herself for 8 or 9 weeks. And so we're trying to figure out ways to get our moms to come in, my mother-in-law and my mom to come in and potentially help. And it was just so stressful at home. I got a hamstring injury. I never got hamstring injuries. You guys knew I took pretty good care of myself. I did a lot of yoga, did all that stuff. And I just never wanted to, risk putting my body at risk so I wouldn't miss anything. And I had a hamstring, and I had to tell Bob I'm out for the Gold Cup. So when I didn't go, but I showed up in Chicago, just like you did, Heath, I was absolutely irate that I was not part of that group, because like you, I missed a part of an experience that not only was shared by the players, but also the coaching staff, because the coaching staff goes, oh, I guess we don't really need Jimmy anymore to win pivotal games. And those little things hurt. So I go down to Copa America, and we don't play particularly well, but there was this one play against Argentina where Bob blamed me. But ultimately, I was kind of trying to step into a space because we were tired. We were chasing the game the whole time, and I tried to make something happen, and they exploited the gap and scored. And he held that against me. I played the next game. He held something else against me. And then I didn't play for the national team for the next 18 months. And there was no like direct conversation between me and Bob as to why that happened. So anytime the team played, I was starting to get more and more bitter And I was happy for you guys in terms of the Confederations Cup. But again, I felt this, I don't know what the word, it's not jealousy per se, but I wanted to be a part of it because I thought I was good enough and should have been a part of that group, but I wasn't. And that hurt me a lot. And then I had the chance of the Gold Cup, and then I get that bad concussion. I just couldn't get that run that I needed to get in. But it's weird because I want to support you guys as players and I want us to win, but I also know that if you're not winning, that gives me a better chance to get into the team. How about you, Charlie?
Yeah, the 2010 World Cup. You work your whole life to participate in a World Cup. That's the goal. And I made a bad decision in 2009 that led to me getting being involved in a car accident. And so, I was a passenger, and someone fatally passed away and tragically passed away in that car accident. And so my initial reaction was, first was, when can I get back on the field? Because for me, I had everything looking forward. I had felt that my future was kind of set for me. I had this path, I had this destiny. I was on a roll. I was moving at the speed of light. And it just felt like with every opportunity I had to play on the pitch, I just kept growing and getting better and better. And I craved that level of competition from the Confederations Cup. I wanted to be playing Spain every week. I wanted to be playing with and against those players every week. And so, you realize all of a sudden that life is much different than you had kind of expected it to be. And you took a lot of things for granted. And so my initial feeling was I have to make this up to my family, my teammates, the coaches, the fans. And so I'm working through all of this pain, and I feel like I deserved it because I put myself in that situation, and I didn't want to feel pity. I didn't want to feel, I didn't want anything from anybody. I wanted to take that pain for myself. And I'm grateful for the support that I had around me. My wife, Gucci Onyewu was there next to me because he tore his patella tendon in that game against Costa Rica. And then James Hashimoto, who was the trainer for the national team, that's who I went to basically live with. And he was training me. And then Stu Holden would come in every now and then because, he had some injuries. So I kept pushing and pushing. And as impossible as it was that doctors doubted that I'd be able to, play soccer again, period. As impossible as it was to get back for this World Cup, that's what was driving me every day. And I was doing 10-hour days of rehab. And, it started with just standing up, started with just being able to hold my leg up in the air. And so I just kept progressing. And about 4 months in, I was able to start jogging on the Ultra G machine. And I'm like, oh man, this could be a reality. And I was doing, agility, and my quickness was still there on the agility, but we all know that agility is not how you play the game of soccer. That's just a small portion of it. So I'm finally back in training in France, and I'm pushing, I'm forcing it. I'm like, I'm going to get a call to the camp. And that's all I really cared about, was just getting to the camp. I knew making the 23 was not probably realistic, although I had hoped that maybe I'd be that 23rd player and I could just be there and kind of do the training and rehab. And maybe by the end of the World Cup, I might be able to be an impact sub. And so finally I get that call from Bob in May, a week before they had to submit, or maybe it might've been a day before they had to submit the 35-man roster. And he just said, everyone's proud of you. You've come a long way, but we knew this moment we were going to have this talk at some point. And so I'm not going to be able to take you to the camp. And so you have that pain, and that was rock bottom for me at that time. I had not experienced even through the accident, all that. That was the moment that it hits you, the consequences. You paid the consequences, the ultimate consequence, not getting a World Cup, and probably never going to get to participate in the World Cup. So then you're watching them, right? So I go on vacation right off after he tells me I'm not going to join the team. So I go to Bahamas to get away. My wife says, you know what? Let's just get away from soccer. Let's go enjoy. Everyone in the Bahamas has a World Cup jersey on. there were players who were also cut from their World Cup rosters. I remember Aquilani from Italy. He got cut from the team, and he's there. So you're constantly around. I'm like, you can't avoid it. So I go back to Delaware to rehab, and we're watching the games. I go back to France for preseason, and Alejandro Bedoya comes to visit me for my birthday, and we watch the Algeria game, and I just remember being like, oh my God. And I'm so happy for them, but every game is painful. I feel like, man, that was my opportunity to really help this team win. And you watch the Ghana game, you're like, if I was there, I would have finished that. Or if I was there, I would have made that run, and you're doing that. But after that Algeria game, they called me from the locker room, and that will always sit, that will always sit with me in terms of, wow, they still thought of me in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Who called? Do you know who was the catalyst?
Yeah, it was Mo and Josie, and then
That's
Landon and Stu got on, and then it kind of that was passed around, and everybody was saying what's up, and they're doing they're like, oh, we're doing the stanky leg for you on the field. And so any time I watched the US game, I had like a pit in my stomach, literally. Every time I watched them up until the day I retired, because I was working. Even after I got back and playing in MLS and I was never the same player, I always felt like, man, I think I can earn a January call up, and that would be heaven for me, right? Like full circle. I got back, and January camp is great because there was that run I had in 2014. I scored 7 goals in a short amount of time to get to MLS Cup finals. I felt like, oh man, new coach, maybe Jurgen Klinsmann gives me an opportunity as a January camp guy. I didn't get it. 2015, I was like, I'm still pushing. 2016, I'm like, I'm still pushing. I just want that one chance. And then, I get diagnosed with cancer, and my boys were born.